Wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, good morning and welcome, or good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time of day you're watching this. It's the beginning of another week. It is the third week on the Proteus, and I see no reason why we shouldn't be finished with it. We are very close. We're going to do the exciting parts now. The light, well, it's all exciting. It's modeling. But we're going to do the lighting this week, concentrate on that, and get the windows and the templates for the windows in. We are pretty darn close on the outside finish. There isn't a lot of flames or striping or anything that needs to go on. It's pretty much once you've painted it white, you're 90% of the way home. So it's white with some exterior details and a little bit of seaming to do. Now, while most of the lighting in the inside of the Proteus is purely conjecture, there are two things I know that light. The ring, that bad boy there, we know that ring, that lights up. And we know that the scope at the front lights up. So I've got the scope lit up. And now I have, over the weekend, carefully prepared, waiting for this very day. I cast up using the technique that I learned on the old Dracula flame from weeks ago, back around Halloween. If you want to go back and reference it, be Halloween of 2016. This is some SM LEDs. There's one of them in there, and it's cast into a clear bit that was molded after that. That is the kit part for an interior light. Come on. There, that's the interior. That's the kit part that's molded. Looks like a half a barrel for an interior light. Well, I made up 2 or 3 of these little, again, getting under the lights, 2 or 3 instant molds so that I could use some crystal clear plastic or acrylic. And yeah, there's 1, there's 2, there's the 3 lights. I figured I'd do up 3. It's easy to do these. These take a few minutes, but that the cast clear stuff takes about a day and a half to dry or set up. So I wanted to make a few molds and a few lights. And now I've got 3 of them, and I just have to figure out where they're going to go. And do 1 light shining back this way and 1 light shining out this way and call it a day. So I don't have to use all the 3 bulbs. I just wanted to make them up just in case. Okay, I've got the light fixtures on the back wall. I think I went for the simpler solution, which was to use this same wall as a central conduit for both lights. And once everything has had a chance to dry a little bit, I'll pop it into the shell and see if that's going to be sufficient or whether I need to add a 3rd light back here. I still have the big ring light that's going to go in the upper hull, but this way all of the lighting is contained in this tub, and I can run a single set of wires out and out to the plug. But I need to paint over the wire, but it looks like, you know, conduit at that scale, so everything's good there. And there's the scope all lit up. Okay, it looks like I'm getting a nice, subtle, not overly lit, no tanning bed look lighting in here. That's quite nice. That's just the 1 bulb that's hidden up in here. And then there's the scope and the bulb over the back hatch. Very nice. And I'm going to do one more thing, which is to hook in the dome light, or the bubble light, to see if there's anything that I might need to add to it. It's kind of moody, kind of good looking, but I'm wondering if it's enough. And until I get the dome lights in, or keep calling it the bubble light, I won't know for sure, but I'm really digging that. It's not, like I said, not overblown, doesn't look like a tanning bed. It's actually pretty much in scale. Well, very successful. The little known fact about this Randy Newberg Voodoo Effects light ring is that it is actually 1 light too long. Well, not too long really, but you will end up tucking 1 down into that hole, and it does a nice little job right here of lighting that bit of the interior. So you get kind of a twofer. It's actually a bonus light. And as a result, it balances out the other light that I had put over on that side. So I don't think I need any more cabin illumination. I think this is going to work just fine. And the light that shines out on the back cabin is nicely covered once the piece of hull is put back on. And I don't think I'm going to add any additional lights to that cabin. I think everything is good in the hood. And here we are doing round 2 of the chair painting. Yes, last week I had an incident with this because I was rushing the paint job and it wasn't quite warm enough outside, and I got a nasty case of the old alligator skin, the old onion skinning, the old orange peel, the old horrible distortion of paint jobs. So it involved a lot of stripping, a lot of sanding, a lot of cursing, a lot of things I'll have to atone for. And but I finally got it back down. I primed everything, and this is the spa blue paint that's going to go underneath the final baby blue, sky blue paint. But everything is going well. It's 64 degrees out today, so I'm going to let these dry for a good afternoon, maybe into late afternoon before I try putting any of the light blue paint on it. Giving the paint lots of time to dry between coats and bond to the substrate underneath is important. So here we have a tale of 2 seat cushions. These are the seat cushions that are going to go on the new rotating seats. That's the original seat over there. These are the new ones. This on your right, on your left, is the one that I got back from Ralph Miller. Perfectly fine. Not a complaint in the book, but I thought I could do just a hair better if I applied myself. So this is the original one I got back. Like I said, meant to stick to the bottom of the chair by means of Velcro. It is a very nice and handsome pad. This on my right is what I had redone at a local, come on, focus, had redone at a local upholstery place. And what they did, they're specializing actually in auto upholstery. And what they did is they took the bottoms from the swivel chairs. I took them over to a shop. I did not have the ability to send these to Ralph, but figuring he had the 103s, he knew what they needed to be done to. But this I took to a local upholsterer who was hiding in a little hole in the wall place, not a stone's throw from actually where I live. It was amazingly close. And I took one to him and said, I'd like to get 3 of these done. How long would it take and how much would it be? And it was dirt cheap, and it was overnight. So I'm sorry why it keeps going in and out of focus, but these are going to be the cushions I'm going to use because I can screw them down to the base and not have to rely on Velcro to make them work. And these are Ralph's seat backs. Now, you can't get better than that anywhere because Ralph builds and he even signs them. Look at that, signed by Ralph Miller. He builds the interiors out of wood and then has them upholstered on top of it. So you can't get better than that. But I'm looking forward to getting them all put together. In other great news, I got mail call today. I got a nice care package from friend of the show and otherwise good egg, Elliot Brown. And Elliot sent me some PETG and some clear styrene because he knows that when I go to build my next Proteus that I'm going to want to use nice optically clear plastic. And of course, now I have not seen how good the kit part is going to be. I know it's going to be much better than what we've been given for the test shot, but still, PETG that you can cut into individual panes is a lovely thing, and I'll look forward to using that on the next build. And this is where we're going to leave it for Monday evening. I've got the central island pretty much all constructed and glued together. I just glued the chair down to the top, and I'll pass it over one more time with the old paintbrush tomorrow before I permanently attach it into the center of the tub. I've got some reinforcing epoxy seeping down around some invisible seams on the back sides of these things so that this tub will be ready to sink in tomorrow. Let's see, I've got lights in the wall on both sides here. I need to touch the paint one last time before I sign off on it. And it will be ready to sink into the tub and glue. Let's just sit into this. There you go. Sit down inside there and get epoxied in and get all nestled in, snug as a bug. And then we're getting very close to wiring up the power and sealing up the top and the bottom. Got the string of lights attached there, wired up under to there, and I got a coat of the gold gray paint over the wiring, so you think you can see it on that wall. That wiring has all but disappeared now. It just looks like another surface detail. Here it's a lot more obvious on this back wall, but for what you're going to see, it's going to be very acceptable. Okay, welcome back. It is Tuesday, and it's time for the next two big steps on the Proteus. And the big steps today are gluing this tub in place, setting it in a bed of 5-minute epoxy so that it sits down nice and good. But to do that, there's really two things that have to be done first. One is I have to drill a hole in the hull right about there to chase wiring out. And the other thing is I need to glue this grate in. There's a recess that goes behind the grate, which is this piece here, which I have painted and prepared for this very occasion, but I need to go ahead and secure that. And I could go ahead and do these, but I can do them after the tub is in. So let me go ahead and put that hole in and get this glued in, and then we will be able to proceed. Here's where we're going to close down on a Tuesday night. I've got this tub very securely epoxied into the base. I've got speaking of the base, I've got a base built. Let me, I got the wiring run into this. Hold on one second. Give me some slack. Cut me some slack, man. There. I've got the base built and the wire running up through it. I've got, let's see, well, I've got that, you saw that wiring. I've got these extenders put on. Now these are pieces that in the actual kit do exist, but were not available at the time that this test shot was done. So I've had to make some out of scrap, and that's not sheet stock, and that's easy enough to do because they're flat. I just need to shape them and trim them and shape them and trim them, but that's ready to go on just like that. And of course the other big news for today was getting these three chairs back up on their pedestals. Got a nice coat of paint on them, got them remounted, and I am going to let them dry overnight, get good and solid before I put the upholstery back on them, or the cushions. So they're almost done. Well, hello there, howdy do. It is Wednesday, and we are looking at possibly doing the final painting on the interior today. You can tell by the time I have to start putting these two sections this close together that it's time, almost time, to button the ship up. My goal for today is to get these bulkhead fillers finished and painted, make myself happy with all of the painting in the cabin so that it can be drying overnight, and that means tomorrow, which will be Thursday, I can concentrate on sealing, closing it up, letting it seal, and doing the final paint. Also today we will be doing the gasket templates for the front windows, and I'll show you how that's being done. But we're down to the point where we've got to finagle the top and the bottom together and trap wiring and do all that kind of stuff, which is why I've got this wiring jig here as an extension for the bubble lights that go on the top. So let's get down to it. And I'm happy to announce that the chairs are finally done. Well, I say finally, this one still doesn't have its topper, and that's only because it is coming in the mail in a couple of days. So we have final chairs, and I can stop obsessing about these things. Got the triangles on the back, and it does the nice swivelly thing, and sits very comfortably. Sit in one now, but there is the original chair. There is chair number 1 of the new set. There's chair number 2 of the new set, and I am sitting in chair number 3 of the new set. So now that I have got these finished, I can start something else big. No, it won't be this, because I have to wait for the weather to become reliably warm, not just periodically warm. Good evening. It is Wednesday still, and I've got these 4 supplemental walls in our bulkheads. Again, these are covered in the kit, but Test Shot did not have them. I'm kind of curious to see how mine stack up to the actual kit parts when I see it, because it took a lot of fitting and fiddling and all that kind of stuff to get those to work out. So I'm going to give them a good coat of paint and blend them in, and get some epoxy on them or some glue to make sure they stay where they're and do what they're told. And then it'll be a matter of getting the last bits of detail paint on here so that I can put that in, and actually up here. There you go. Come on up. There. Put that in and chairs in, and we'll be ready to close this up. Now, I'm going to do one more thing to break from the instructions, only because I tried fitting this thing with it improper, and it was a nightmare. This ring is supposed to go right about there and attach to the back of the seat and kind of hang in midair by gravity, or by unicorn wishes, and that doesn't quite work. So what I'm going to do is snip this back post off, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it in place up in the ring, so that when I set this whole thing down, it will already be in place, because it'll be glued in right there. Here's a word of advice for you would-be Proteus builders. Even though the Voodoo Effects instructions call for you to make that hole directly in the back, right over top of the bubble peg to put your strip of lights through, it might behoove you to do that a little off-center, off of that, because what I'm running into is this last hold down where the little bracket that holds the ring in place also wants to be dead center in the back, and I'm having a hard time reconciling it over top of that strip. So if the strip were coming out, say, over here or over here, it wouldn't be running into that, and you might have a better fit. The only alternative is to off-center the control ring, which I think doesn't look as good. So, word to the wise, guys. Okay, in between the time I'm going to paint these walls, I'm just packed in some putty there, the old putty packing, the epoxy putty, just to reinforce that joint along that wall. Get those nice and solid and stiff. It'll take a few minutes for that to set up, and then I can go ahead and paint this. But while I'm waiting for all of that to set up and dry, I'm going to go ahead and finish the gasket templates on the front glass piece. And it's a simple matter of peeling them off of my sheet and sticking them down here. Okay, because this is a two-handed operation, it's easier for me to describe it while I have my hands free and the camera on a tripod. I've got 3 of the panels, try to do this way you can see it. I've got 3 of the panels in place, and it is important that you don't mind the overall crappiness of this piece. I threw some future on it to make it a little more see-through, and I trapped some dust bunnies in the future, which is never a good thing, but for the purposes of demonstration, it does just fine. It is important when lining these pieces up that you go to the outer perimeter of the plastic piece. It has all been carefully designed to fit there, and when you do that correctly, you will be left with a hole in the center, which should, if you've done it right, match up to, and I guess I need to put something behind this to make it more visible. When you're done, get this in the light. Come on. There. You can see the thin black outline around the windows, which is the desired effect of the gasket. See that thin black line? That's what we're shooting for. So let's put the next one on, which will be this big, which will try to do this in such a way that you can see it, which will be this guy right here. So what I've done is I'll go back to the sheet, remove the inside of the window, and it helps to have a very freshly sharpened pointy X-Acto knife in your X-Acto when you do this, or other hobby knife by brand. And what I do is now you're going to be picking up and repositioning, so don't think you're going to hit it right on the spot the first time. So what I'm going to do is line up that front corner, just like that. Now the plastic piece, at least in this test shot, has an indent of a circle right here, and right here. And that's going to also help you line up your vinyl by lining up on that circle. So we're just going to peel this back up, and don't be too rough with it because it will stretch out of shape. But I've got it, the front corner attached very carefully, and I'm going to actually bump that down a little bit, reattach it. Now I'm going to work my first seam up this corner till I get that indent, and I get to the circle right here. You can see it, it's a indented circle on the plastic piece. And then by lining this up on that edge and then working that to the other circle. I lied, I got this pretty much on the first try. And if you get some, make sure your glass is clean so that you're not trapping any grains of dust or anything underneath it. Really, as long as it's clean where the gasket is going to be visible, that's the important part. Now we're going to do this one. Sorry. I'm going to do this one. Peel out the center. Peel up the perimeter piece. Perimeter piece. Start on, sometimes I use a blade, sometimes I use my meaty little fingers. Start on that corner. And then work back towards, well, that's odd, I forgot to cut the corner out of that one. I'll have to change that before these are ready for market. Okay, Get that corner lined up. Line up towards the center. Follow the perimeter of the plastic piece. And then you get something like that. Now I'm not going to go through all of them, but this is basically the idea. I'll do one more on this top because the top ones are a little bit more difficult in the respect that the pieces are thinner, and this area right here is going to be left bare. There's an area right here, and you can see the beginning of it right here, where the vinyl doesn't quite touch or doesn't overlap itself. So we start down in the center corner where that circle is. We go up this center, and that's another thing with these top windows. The ridges between them, or the peaks between the windows themselves, are much they're not as pointy. They're much softer. They're not as pointy, so it becomes tougher to get them exactly where you need them. But if it was easy, it wouldn't be a hobby. Okay, we're going to start here, the top edge, just because I want to be different. Work this down, work it over towards the center, work it straight up the top. There. There you go. See, this will be an area that won't have any vinyl on it. And again, once you place it inside, you will get the tiny perimeter of, I wonder if does that help? No, it doesn't. You get the tiny perimeter of black gasket. Morning, it is wonderful Thursday, the gateway to the weekend, and I am doing some finishing touches on the cabin before I get ready to seal it up today. I've done some, I took a page from my own book about making up some homemade decals back when I did the what was the project that I made the decals for? Oh, the Starfleet tug. And since I know what certain things look like in this that aren't on the decal sheet, or that are on the decal sheet, I didn't get gauges, round number, or the circle with a needle in it. So, and like the oxy, the only things you're really going to see when I have the back door off of the sub is you're going to be able to see in there. So I made up some oxy stickers, which is basically the stencil font, and then printed out really small on the decal paper. And it took me a couple tries to get the right size on that. I printed up a bunch of different sizes and then picked the one that worked the best. And I've got some mocked up gauges in there, whether you see them very well, but add a little bit of life to the little simple red painted lines that I had done earlier. And I found a picture of the X-ray, or the map for the map table, and I made a decal from that, so that I'd have something to put on that front table. Now, once I put the front windows in, it's going to be murky and cloudy, but by God, I'll know they're in there. At least for this window. I keep harping on that, and I'm sorry, but the actual kit will have clear windows. And speaking of clear windows, here are the window with this interior frame glued in. I left that in all night. I What did I do? What did you do, Lou? Well, you stuck them together with canopy glue is what I did. And that goes right here. You know, when I was building this thing, I was making a lot of fuss, at least internally, about what obvious holes these were. And, you know, why would you do that? Because that's a very visible thing. But once you put the window frame over it, you will see that it covers them anyway. So you're never going to see them. This is the type of thing you think about when you are engineering a model. You think of the things that will show, not the things that will show in the final product, not necessarily the things that will show while you're building it. But the window goes on something like that. Okay, I've started gluing in the inside window pane, and I think this is going to be a symphony, a cornucopia, a veritable smorgasbord of adhesives. What I've got is a bead of, what you don't see, is a bead of clear parts canopy glue, and it's going right along here, and it's hitting those rounded indentations, which I believe are more and more engineered glue spots. So there's one there, and then there's one big one here, here, and here, with smaller ones there and there. So that's glued in, and I'm going to let that dry for a bit. But then I'm going to come along to the bottom here with a epoxy, and I don't know whether it's going to be the JB Weld or whether it's going to be just regular old 5-minute clear epoxy. But I'm going to do that along the bottom, and then wait for that to dry, and then come along and do it again at the top, so that everything from all sides is attached and glued down. Okay, everything is in and dried, or more or less set up, and here is another reason why you should be friends with your dental hygienist, or just get yourself one of these. It is so handy for picking out any little bits of the epoxy that seep out towards the front, and I did have a couple spots, I'll confess it, but I was able to pick it out, and it peeled off perfectly using this implement of destruction that normally you would not want anywhere near your face. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to join together this seam with some silver duct tape, and just kind of reinforce it, and it helps keep the inside frame tight up against the clear plastic. Here's a lovely shot of the windows showing the gasket in place and how it's supposed to look when all is been said and done. I think that's a successful look myself, and we are all but ready for the big closing. But I've got to tell you, I'm getting a bit antsy about that, so I'm gonna step away for an hour or so and then come back to it. No sense rushing it. I need to make a mask for because eventually you're going to want to touch some paint up here, and when you do that, you run the risk. So I'm going to make some masks for these windows and for the bubble, just so that I can be, you know, belt and suspenders sure that I am keeping them out of the danger zone when it comes to any paint that may be sprayed. And I'm very happy to announce that the postman just dropped off the last of the chair backs, so I now have all of my chairs done, and the saga of the chairs, not to be confused with the Journal of the Wills or the Lord of the Rings, but the saga of the chairs has come to a happy conclusion. Yay! And you can see by the fact that he's kipping on his back that I am getting ready to go back in and finally finish painting on Slimer, his eyes and teeth. Yes, it's been over a year since I've touched that, and it's only been because I've been bemoaning the lack of space to truly lay him out on his back and paint him. But now I've got that space, so I'm starting to tackle things like that. But I want to go in and paint his eyes and his teeth. I've got the base repainted yesterday while it was 70 plus degrees outside. So things are getting done. Yay! Good times. And here you can see I've started putting the masks over the windows. Why do you need window masks, you ask? Well, And depending on where in your procedure you decide to do your final hull color painting, you may or may not need them, but I like to include them. And I know that when it comes time for me to do the seaming and the puttying and all of that work, that I'm going to want at least these two windows protected. So better to do them all and keep your windows and your nice gaskets nice and clean. And here is the bubble. Now I realized after doing this that I need to make it a little bit longer. It wasn't quite wrapping all the way around, but it protects the areas where the light comes out. And I'm going to do something for the top here. I just have to figure out the design of it to keep it clean. And yes, it's true, you can leave that off until the very last and then pop it on, but you still need something to protect that chair, unless you elect not to glue the chair down until the very last. Like I say, these are depending on how you put your ship together, these may or may not be all that vital for you. I am going to pat myself on the back again about gluing the ring into the top. I'm sorry, gluing this control ring that goes around the chair, gluing that to the top, because I just think it lines up so much better that way. But let me finish putting the rest of the masks on. Okay, we're down to the last couple of masks before we're ready to take them all off and start doing the, well, not all of them, but take them off and start doing the big ceiling. And we're talking about the back windows here, the back hatches. I'm going to give you masks that you'll do either way. Either you can paint this black to start with and then cover them over to protect them while you're painting them white, or do it as I am doing it, which is use the outside edge and then put, additional masking tape out around it as a mask to paint the black inside it. I have to run a piece of tape, but you can do that with plain old tape just straight up the side there. And I gotta take this one off and do the same thing, but using it as a perimeter mask. Yeah, I'm gonna get that off. And I'll pop this perimeter mask on, and like I say, a piece of regular masking up the side of the fin. So let me do that. And I don't know whether I am actually going to be painting that black right now, or I think I will wait. I'll do all the seaming stuff now. But here's the last bit, which is the bubble. Again, the longer strip covering up your lights, and then this little strip with the teeth taken out of it to help you form around the bubble. And I'll finish off the rest with painter's tape. But I wanted to put that vinyl down because you get a real sharp line when you do it that way. Also, something you can put on at the very, very last is this piece, this ring, because you can just simply pop it over top of that and put a little bit of white or clear part glue on it, and it will do just fine. And it'll actually, I think, be easier to deal with, easier to handle before you put that on. And you may want to pop a piece of tape over that hole so that you can put this down at the last time. Put this down after you've painted your hull. I've got the majority of my hull painted, with the exception of the areas around the intakes and around the seam on the bottom. So that's why I went ahead and stuck these things in, because I don't believe I'll be bringing any white paint up around this area. So we are down to doing nothing else but seaming the top and the bottom. Now before I do that, there's one last thing I've got to do, which is to join up my wiring for the dome, or for the bubble, to the wiring in the rest of the ship. So let me do that last precarious bit, and then we're going to be ready to put this thing on its back and seam it. Very well, now I have done the final bit of joining of the wiring, and no time shall it come asunder. Got the back wall lighting, got the ring lighting. Nothing to it now but to put out goodly amounts of epoxy, and I had some good results with this tube version of 5-minute epoxy, so I'm going to use that squirted liberally about this whole area and around the front. Actually, I'll probably do it on this part, since this is where the lip is. And then it's just a matter of flipping this over like a flapjack and sticking it down. Got a bunch of clamps out. I need to get some non-skid material because the shape of this hull means the clamps are just going to skate right off of it unless I find a way for them to be controlled. So let me get some gritty material and get those ready. And before you can ask the question, the answer is no. You cannot have too many clamps. It's setting up. We'll see. I think I've got all of the major arteries clogged. Now there will be an occasion to go in here and fill this underseam. And I'm going to do that with just the tiniest little bead of Bondo. But I suppose if one were inclined, you could use a white putty. But never had good luck with the squadron putties. So going to use a little bit of Bondo, or perhaps no, Tulip doesn't really level, it just sinks in. So looks like it's going to be white Bondo or red Bondo, but it's going to sit this way for a few hours before I start. Even though it's 5-minute epoxy, I'm going to give it more like a couple of hours before I start unclamping. Well, all the clamps have been removed, and I have one last job to do tonight before I can let it set up overnight, and that is to put some Bondo into these gullies here. And let's do that real fast with a flat knife, and we will let this sit up overnight. Okay, got the pretty little bead of Bondo around everything, and we'll let this sit overnight, and then we'll come back to it tomorrow and start dressing it up. Almost done, kids. Hello and happy Friday to you all. I have just a few more things to finish on this model, and it will be done. Don't know if I'm going to get it done today, but certainly it's coming down to the wire. I've got hey, if you're building this kit, leave these hatches out. They're an invaluable source of handling. You can see I have sanded the first seam of Bondo. I did that this morning, and what I'm going to do now is take some of that primer filler and decant it into my airbrush, because I don't want to try to use anything as big as a rattle can on this. And I want to put that filler primer in and then see how many times I have to go around with Bondo and primer before I am ready to put on a white coat. Put on a white coat and pretend I'm a doctor. There is some dressing up that needs to be done to these exhaust nozzles. And then it's down to putting on the final details. These have to be painted, and then part of the vinyl kit is actually the non-skid steps that go on here. And those, rather than paint them black, I'm just going to stick them on. And then we'll be good to go. So once again, the tabletop has been cleaned off. I have my handy dandy primer filler. I'm going to decant a bunch of this, pour it into the lid so that I can pour it into said airbrush, and dress up this seam with some primer so I can see what areas might need some additional Bondo. Well, it came away pretty good. I expected I wouldn't be able to get all this in one go, but the amount of filling in is a lot less than I thought it was going to be, so hooray for me. So let this dry for an hour or so, and then put Bondo in the remaining cracks. We could be looking at getting a finished coat on this thing today. Righto, while I am waiting for the second bits of Bondo to cure, I'm going to go ahead and paint these back hatches in. I've got masks in the set for the C's, or the outside edge, and then you just tape around it. So let's get to painting those. And here's where we're going to leave the Proteus for this week. A lot of progress, a lot of big stuff. Don't want to rush it at this point, because sometimes when I get to this point,
I get overconfident and I rush something and I end up regretting it. But it is essentially done outside of, let me take this dome off, outside of, see, I've got the second run of Bondo and paint on there, and I will let that set up overnight and hit it once more in the morning. I'll probably work on this through some of the weekend and maybe get it ready for the beginning of next week. And that's where we're going to finish up for this week. A lot of good big stuff done on the Proteus, like I just said, and got the chairs finished. So that's gone and out of the way. Thank you very much. And actually worked a little bit on Slimer, laying long dormant for over a year. Yes, I hide my head in shame about that. But as it looks like it, we will be getting this finished up in the next few days. Wrap it up. It's looking very good. Like I say, a little bit left on the seam work and some more sanding and some more white trim work. And we'll have another one ready for the shelf. Got the template set done. I finished writing the instructions, so I got to let people know that I've got those ready to go, and maybe I'll be spending next week filling orders. Who knows? So until next week, have a good one. Be good to each other, and I will see you back here next time.